So the must-have is, of course, a greenhouse. A couple of years in from growing when I had a greenhouse, looking back, I would say if I only had space for a greenhouse in my garden, it would be a greenhouse I would have. Everyone who's ever had a greenhouse will tell you the same thing. I wish I'd have had the biggest I could have fit in. And so, if you are getting one in the future, make sure you, if maybe wait an extra year to save up, but get that biggest greenhouse you can fit in, because you'll soon use it up. Greenhouse is obviously great for your homegrown food. The taste is uncomparable, as we all know. Obviously, we can start veg earlier, extend the growing season. On a wet day, we can go and do a few jobs in there. And in my case, I specialise in, I like to grow exhibition onions, and hence I need to get started in December. So this is the what I call the top greenhouse, which is the polycarbonate one. This is set up for, in November, ready for getting going. You can see that, just about see the bubble wrap. It's entirely bubble wrapped. The seals are joined, sealed with tape. I have what I call a cannabis zip on the front, on the door entrance, which was always the tricky bit to work out to keep to keep the heat in. That greenhouse is the one that's at the top of the garden, and I use that one because it has more winter sun than the other one. So it just saves a little on heating. But you do have to beware. The sun popped out, for example, today, just for 10 minutes, and before you know it, it was 23 in there. So get the door open, and but it's I think probably in hindsight, things evolved with that have worked out. So, for example, I've got the two raised beds that you can see everything sat on. They basically double as benching. So I use all that space. I'll cover the raised beds with some cardboard and then some plastic, and then on top of that will be plants, etc., to get going early. I don't actually need to plant into the raised beds till usually into April, by which time one or two of the things that have come out and already on the move. Clearly, growing with the heat and the lighting, it is a necessity for, in particular, onions, which I like to grow. And yes, it's if you can get set up for it, it's great, and it gives you something to do also in the wintertime. My hobby started already. I probably only really have November off, but that's more of a month that you can use for disinfecting, etc. So before we move on to growing, the real reason we all grow vegetarian is because it's the only way we know what the inputs are on it. In an earlier life, I was a dairy farmer. Got a very good understanding about how to grow things and inputs and some of the chemicals that can be used, which you'd probably rather not really. And it is the only way of knowing how something's grown is by growing it yourself. I don't tend to use much chemical at all, really, so far, touch wood. Enviromesh is a wonderful thing. One of the great advantages of I've made frames that just fit over the raised beds. Makes it very simple. In this case, in the carrot bed there, you can just see I've just sort of propped it up there as it's coming off to pull some carrots out. But earlier on in the year, for example, I can use the frame. I can also put a bubble wrap over the top, and for just a couple of weeks, extra bit of warmth in the spring. The other thing I do is, if shallots or onions are getting near to harvest, I can always put a cover over the top as well. The frame's already there, just to keep any wet away from them last 2 weeks on your onions, which I think most exhibitors try and do. With pests, the important thing is just to keep a regular check. Spot something earlier, you can usually sort it out before it becomes a problem. Once again, the smaller area you have, the easier it is to spot things. Raised beds also make it easier to spot things. So that's the one, but probably the one chemical use. I don't really like to put names of anything I use. That's not what I'm about. But I do use the SB Invigorator a little bit. Not a lot. I think that just helps a little bit. Supposedly it's completely harmless. So I'm comfortable using that. I think last summer I used one spray for blight on the potatoes. And that was because I was going away for a few days and the humidity looked like it was on the rise. So just to be on the safe side. But that's not bad going all in all for my year's veg. Water. One of the great advantages at home is that we've got some big roofs to get the water from. Also, we've got a tap as well, so whatever works. It's quite easy to catch a substantial amount of rain. I've got some biggish barrels, what would be called popcorn barrels. They're painted brown so as to match in with the fence, so they look nice and tidy. And I've got 3 different watering systems. My onions have a drip system for them. What you can see there around the carrots, it's like quite a porous drip. When you turn the tap onto that, it comes out quite substantially, but it's so much easier than pouring on the top and washing the soil away from the carrot. That's also have the same setup there on the celery. And if we just go back a couple of slides, you'll see there I have the auto pots, which is a wonderful thing for watering. You can't quite see, but the bin for holding the water is at the top there. And that 45 gallons, and that pretty much I fill that up, and you can forget about them for a few days. And it's especially when we have these hot summers. I'm sure those of you who've watered by hand, you're probably going in 2 or 3 times a day to keep the plants looking healthy. I sort of water pots, I came across them really in my early days. I had a few spells away in hospital, unfortunately, so I needed a means of keeping things well watered, and that works a treat. For me in there, I don't use a lot of the substrates that some use. I use actually a professional compost mixed half with perlite. In the bottom, I put just a little layer of pea gravel, washed pea gravel, about 5 centimeters of perlite on top of that, and then the 50-50 mix. And then I also feed in the water drip, and I use a Kempac tomato feed, and it seems to work quite well. So at the minute, that's how I operate in there. I'm also grow I'll grow 8 medium tomatoes that you can see along that side, and on the other side that you can't see, I have 4 small fruiting, which will be a Pero at the minute, and then I have 4 cucumber. Last year I grew 4 early cucumbers, mini ones, and then I think around about July time, I got some fairly high Carmen plants to replace them with to follow on through the end of the summer.